At long last, the wait for My Hero Academia Season 4 is over. I have patiently been awaiting the return of My Hero Academia because it's been honestly the longest time we've ever had without the anime, because we had not that long of a gap between Season 1 and 2, not that long of a gap between Season 2 and 3, but Season 3 to 4 has probably been the longest gap we've had yet for the story, for good reason, because obviously, Studio Bones, they did not want to catch up to the manga, and it makes perfect sense. They want to properly give My Hero Academia, the adaptation that it deserves, and so I think I'm willing to wait. It's just like, it's been a bit, and I've just really have missed this anime, and I think many of you agree with me, we're glad to finally have it back. The beginning of this episode set up a mood, or a tone. The entire tone of this season, I think, everybody understood in the first segment of this episode. This is going to be very different. It really shows that this is going to be a dark season of My Hero Academia, because with what happened to Magne, is just something I think is going to shock everyone. I know it definitely shocked manga readers when we first saw it. When I saw it in the manga, I was just so shocked because it was so quick, nobody saw it coming. It was just so quick in the manga, and I mean, I might show a manga panel for you guys to see, but the tone of Season 4, I think, has perfectly been set, and I think many are going to understand that this is not going to be the exact same series as Season 1, 2, and 3. It's going to be very dark. A dark season. I'm just going to be honest with you. It is probably one of the darkest seasons or arcs of My Hero Academia to date. It really is something that made many just like blown away. It is a really good arc for My Hero Academia. Probably one of my personal favorites, and it's extremely long. I think the entirety of Season 4 My Hero Academia is probably going to focus on this arc. That's just how long it is and how good it's going to be. But okay, let's get right into it. In the last season of My Hero Academia, there was a very critical moment, a turning point for the story. And I think many know what I'm talking about. The turning point was when All Might defeated All for One, and All Might, as his time as a hero, was up. It was over for him, and he had to rely on his successor and everyone that is a hero to succeed him and be able to maintain society. With the fall of All Might as the symbol of peace, it really changed the Hero Society for good, and we have slowly started to see ripples form thanks to that. And one of the big things that All Might did throughout his legacy as the #1 hero was lower crime rate. He kept crime rate down to a minimum. He also was just someone that really deterred new villain groups from rising up. He was someone that really maintained order. And with All Might's fall as the symbol of peace, no longer being able to be a hero, those criminals that are in the shadows, been waiting their time, biding their time to finally make a move, are finally creeping on out, which is what Overhaul's group is. He is someone from an ancient era of villains before All Might really came around. And this is kind of the ripples that is slowly starting to form thanks to All Might no longer being here. Greater villains people have been hiding for so long are finally stepping out. And it's not just that, though. Even though we've already seen the effects of what's going on with Hero Society, there's obviously effects going on in Villain Society as well. And I think that this episode perfectly showcases that, of how both sides are changing. Not just heroes, but also villains. Because we all know, through Izuku, our MC, he's someone that has to surpass All Might. He has to fulfill such a wide gap between him and, All Might. There's big shoes to fill. Everybody that tries to be like All Might or be the #1 hero, there's massive shoes that might not ever be filled. Izuku may never fill those shoes in the same way that All Might did. That's just how big of shoes All Might had. And the thing about all this is that the same could be said for All for One. He was someone that was the pinnacle of evil. He was the ultimate Shadow King. He was someone that was the ultimate manipulator that was able to do anything he wanted behind the scenes and keep everything under his reign. He was basically the villain All Might. And that's kind of what really made that fight between All For One and One For All so amazing was because it wasn't just All Might's fall, but it was also All For One's fall. And so with both sides losing their main symbol, obviously someone's going to have to step up to replace those symbols. And that's kind of where Overhaul comes in. He's someone that wants to step up and be the next, symbol of evil. He wants to be the one that leads the charge for the next generation of villains, but obviously Shigaraki, he's someone that thinks he is owed that he is owed to be the successor and the leader of the entirety of the villain society. So there is a really good, showcasing here that it's not just the hero side, but also the villain side that has been affected, and it goes even further than that. This episode really wanted to show the contrast, but the parallels as well with Izuku and Shigaraki. And it's something I've kind of already dabbled into and talked about in my anime reviews from Season 1, 2, and 3 of My Hero Academia, that even though we follow Izuku, since he's our protagonist, he's the main person of this story that will eventually become the #1 hero, you have it to where his rival, or his nemesis, is someone that is also maturing and getting stronger alongside of Izuku. Shigaraki, he's a perfect example of a nemesis that has grown just as much as Izuku since Season 1, and even though we don't get as much screen time with him as Izuku, you could kind of theoretically say everything that Izuku goes through, Shigaraki is going through, because think about everything that has happened since the beginning of the story. When we were first introduced to Shigaraki, he was someone that was a child. He was childlike in nature. He thought everything was a game. He didn't care about anything. He was very destructive. He was just like a boy lashing out. That's kind of how he was introduced in Season 1 at the end of Season 1. Season 2 comes around, he still has the anger, and he finally gets, control of his own, group of villains, Dabi, Toga, Twice, etc. He's able to control them, and thanks to that, he has to learn how to slightly be a leader, but he isn't obviously perfect in any ways. He has to somehow maintain order and balance, and he also eventually has to figure out a way to make a name for himself, and that's where Stain comes in, and obviously he learned how to get conviction. He learned how to get a motive to where he wanted to fight for it, and that's what Stain was for. He used Stain as a staircase, or a step on a staircase, to be able to move forward. And then Season 3 comes around, and he learned that he no longer has someone that will have his back all the time. He no longer has his master guarding him. He needs to learn how to flourish by himself, but also lead his group of League of Villains by himself without All For One constantly holding the reins. So there's been a lot of growth with Shigaraki as a character since Season 1, and Season 4 is clearly trying to set up, once again, more character development for Shigaraki, to where he needs to learn how to formulate a plan. It's not just about destroying things, going after your conviction. You need to have a plan to figure it out. You need to know how to get things done, and that's what makes this contrast to this episode and the parallels with Izuku so important, because think about what this episode presented in this, season. Izuku is someone that needs to be the successor of All Might. He was given One For All, and we found out in this episode that Togata was someone that was potentially going to be All Might's successor, but thanks to discovering Izuku, Izuku got the quirk. So it's kind of like Togata, he might have been, in Izuku's spot, and it's kind of like, who really deserves One For All? Who really deserves to be the #1 hero? That's kind of what Togata and Izuku are kind of like when you see this episode. And when you look at Overhaul and Shigaraki, it's also very similar. There is a difference, but it is also very similar. They're competing or who is worthy of being the #1 villain. So it's just really cool to see how, once again, you see these parallels, but also a contrast to both sides of the story, and how Izuku and Shigaraki are developing in their own way to become the ultimate form of what they believe in. So, enough with that. Let's talk about Overhaul. I think everybody wants me to talk about him and get my thoughts out there, and just, I know many are wondering more about his character. So, to begin, in terms of voice acting, character design, and the way he was displayed with the animation throughout this episode, it was everything I wanted. It was everything I imagined when I was reading the manga of My Hero Academia. And I know I briefly talked about this at the end of Season 3. I talked about how I really loved his voice actor because we heard a little bit of it, but just hearing it again with new lines and everything, it just really shows that it's the perfect fit. It is really the perfect fit for Overhaul's character, and his character design, I've always known it was great, but just seeing it colored and animated and all that, it's just oh my god, it really just shows how great Horikoshi's art style is and his character designs for his villains. I mean, he's always had good character designs. I always say that. He has good character designs with heroes, but his villains is where he really shines as a artist. I think he really goes all in. I mean, look at some of the villains that were introduced in this episode. They really pop, they stand out, they have unique designs. It really makes you want to know more about them and why they dress like the way they do, etc. Because we know their outfits really do represent who they are as individuals. I mean, when you think about our heroes' side of the story, all their clothing, etc. really does represent their personalities or what their quirk is really like. So when you see someone like, you know, Overhaul and how he dresses, it really does make you wonder, what is his quirk? What is he? Why does he, you know, act like he does? What is his personality, etc.? And there's quite a few little details that this episode does give to let you know what type of person he actually is. So let's get right into that. Overhaul's character design obviously is off of a plague doctor. If you know anything about history and you know about plague doctors, his design is straight up a plague doctor. And his entire villain group, as we can see, has plague doctor mask on their face. So, and you can see the way he kind of was upset when blood got on him for Magne. He was like, oh, I don't like this and all that, and he tried to get rid of it. He tried to completely wipe himself off. It showed that he is like, he has an OCD, at least when it comes to germs, etc. So he didn't want any blood, etc. to get on him. So that fits along with, you know, his plague doctor look, because plague doctors didn't want to really, you know, get any diseases on them because they were kind of really used for the Black Death. So getting blood on you, you know, they don't want that. It could cause diseases, infections, etc. So it's really cool that his design is really playing with his personality. He's trying to stay clean, and the gloves he wears as well is also reminiscent that he doesn't want to touch things. He doesn't want to get dirty, etc. So there is a lot of little details from his character you can gather just from this first episode. And there's even more than that as well. You could clearly see from just his depiction alone that he doesn't really care about his group. He does not care about his underlings whatsoever. And I know this is kind of like an obvious thing to think about, because when you think about villains in stories, usually they don't care about their underlings. They don't care about their subordinates, etc. But when you really think about Shigaraki as a group, it's obvious that they work a little bit differently. They are very different from, you know, let's say, the typical villains you would see. Shigaraki's group obviously does have some form of unity in a way, or they, at the very least, do care about each other. We've seen Toga and Twice have some interaction with each other. We have definitely seen Magne be this big sister character to all of them. So we do know that they do have more of a friendly, you know, conversations with each other. They do actually care about each other to some degree. And just to see the reaction when Magne died within this episode really does prove that they care about their group, the League of Villains. But when you look at Overhaul's reaction to what he did within this episode, it was completely different from the way the League of Villains acted. The Overhaul's group, he literally told his subordinate, Shield, get in front of me, and he died for him. He just straight up died, no questions asked, which really just says a lot about the mentality of Overhaul subordinates, but it also shows that he doesn't care. He doesn't care if people around him die. He has a very cold personality. As long as he's okay, that's all that matters. And so he let a dude die for him. While Shigaraki, he even told, you know, Mr. Compress to not attack. He even said, don't do it, don't attack. And he was very concerned of it. He went out of his way to fight Overhaul. A man he had no idea how he fought, what kind of quirk he had. He charged him. So it shows that Shigaraki in some cases is very emotional and does care about his group to some degree. So that's a really cool little detail that this episode wanted to depict between Overhaul and Shigaraki and how they view their subordinates. Let's talk about Overhaul's quirk. What did he do? Now, obviously, I can't necessarily talk about everything, because spoilers, because I do know what his quirk is, but I'm not going to give it away because I'm not going to ruin that for you guys. It's for the mystery, it's for people to wonder and theorize, so I'm not going to ruin that for you guys. But I do want to point out a few details. One of the big things that you need to notice is that he pulls off his glove, and then he activates his quirk when he touches Magne. It's real quick, it's a quick little swipe, and Magne completely just turns to blood. Now, there's a very big difference between Magne and what Shigaraki did. Like, what Overhaul did to Magne and what, you know, Shigaraki did to Shield. When you think about Shigaraki's quirk, he has destruction. He's able to crumble anything that he touches with all 5 fingers. But when you look at Overhaul, it was very different. When he did it, it didn't look like he used all his fingers, but even if he did, the point is that he was able to not destroy the entire body. It was just the upper half. So it seems like in some cases, Overhaul, if his quirk is very similar to Shigaraki, he has more control over it than Shigaraki, because he's able to stop the destruction of the body at the legs. Or maybe that is the weakness. Maybe he can't destroy from the legs down. Whatever the case may be, though, is that he does have something that looks similar, but does seem to be fundamentally different in all regards from Shigaraki's quirk. But even then, though, it really just goes to show that Overhaul's quirk is very deadly. If he gets his hands on you, you're pretty much dead. You're not going to survive. And it really makes you wonder, did he make Magane explode from the inside out? Did, he actually manipulate Magane's blood to, like, superheat and explode? What exactly happened? Does he have blood manipulation? Does he cause explosions? There's a lot of questions you can gather from just a brief little interaction he did with the League of Villains. So, enough with that. I guess let's talk about Shigaraki and what he is going to do going forward. Now, I've already kind of discussed the contrast between both groups, but you gotta look at what Shigaraki learned within this episode. It was a very big deal for him as a character. And that is, he was someone that obviously, we know he has conviction, he has a group, and he's trying to figure out a way to maintain his villain group without his teacher, All For One. And obviously, him even communicating with Overhaul is trying to build up his strength. That's what he's trying to do right now. And Overhaul confronts him and starts talking. He's like, someone's got to be the new leader of this age for, the villain society. And he's like, you dare say that to me and you know who my master is? And it is very disrespectful. It shows that Overhaul doesn't really respect Shigaraki's group at all. He really does not care. All he really cares about is, Shigaraki's group in name only, just to build up his reputation, the way he expresses himself within the episode. But even though that is the case, Shigaraki was someone that, confronted Overhaul as well. And Overhaul pretty much exposed him. He's like, you had two very important pawns a part of your group. You had Muscular and Moonfish. And I think everybody knows how crazy these two individuals are from Season 3. Muscular, obviously everybody remembers him. He was the fight that Izuku had at the beginning of Season 3 that was honestly just mind-blowing. It was on par with it pretty much the All For One and One For All fight later on in the middle of Season 3, just because of how well animated it was. But Muscular was definitely very strong. He took a lot of damage. He was able to fight back against Izuku's 100% punch, and he was able to he had to take multiple punches just to go down. Muscular was incredibly strong by a large margin compared to everyone else a part of Shigaraki's group. So his capture was definitely a major hit to the League of Villains. But also, Moonfish as well was someone that was incredibly dangerous and very strong. The way he was brought down and used was definitely not very smart for Shigaraki, because he could have definitely been a really nice long-range fighter to fight back against, Overhaul in this episode. So when you think about it, Overhaul did really point out Shigaraki's flaws. He does not know how to be a leader. He does not know how to make plans and figure out how he needs to use his subordinates. He doesn't know where to move them at. So that was a big thing there, is that he needs to understand that he already messed up pretty big. He messed up big by letting Muscular and Moonfish get captured. I mean, if Muscular was there, imagine how different this episode would have been. Magane probably wouldn't have died, and Muscular would have went into a degree to where he was able to fight back and, probably even take out Overhaul. We don't really know, or Moonfish at the very least could have probably done something with his range. So, yeah, it says a lot, and it pretty much meant that Overhaul definitely has the advantage here, at least in the conversation department. But then he goes even further. He's like, do you have a plan? Well, what's your plan? Is it a delusion or is it a plan? And Shigaraki basically shut up. He didn't say anything because he realized that Overhaul was right. He had a plan. He was someone that, actually knew what to do, but Shigaraki didn't. Shigaraki had no idea. He was just going with the flow, and that's not what a leader really should do. A leader should definitely have a plan and know what to do. So in that moment, he already lost once again. So Shigaraki has a lot of growth to do, and just seeing how he reacted and told everybody to stop, like Toga and all of them not to attack, just drop it, stop it for now, it shows that he is contemplating what just happened. He's contemplating what to do next, which is showing growth, that he's trying to plan out what needs to happen so he can get back at Overhaul. So yeah, I think that, once again, it's a really good start to My Hero Academia Season 4, but I've yet to even get into the hero stuff, so let's get into that. So, now that I'm done with the villain stuff, hero stuff, it's very simple, it's straightforward, honestly. You have it to where Izuku, he wants to do the work study with, Sir Night-Eye. He wants to be underneath All Might's sidekick, someone that worked closely with All Might. He wants to work with Night-Eye. Now, Night-Eye as a character, obviously, I love his design. He has a really cool design. I love his hairstyle, etc. And his, group like Bubble Girl, etc. is really awesome. And by the way, little tidbit fact for all of you guys out there as anime onlys or even manga readers that have no idea, Bubble Girl that's in this episode, she actually is a fan design. For instance, it was a competition or contest or whatever that Horikoshi had a long time ago, and he asked her designs for characters, heroes, etc., and Bubble Girl's design was selected to be a part of Sir Night-Eye's, hero group. So basically, Bubble Girl is a fan design that Horikoshi incorporated into the story. So that's pretty cool. So just, I wanted everybody to understand that how awesome it is that Horikoshi used a fan's design to be a part of the story. But anyways, get back on topic though. Izuku, he wants to train underneath Sir Night-Eye, and the only way to really get to it is through Togata, the character that we are introduced at the end of Season 3 that has quite the personality. And I've already talked in length about Togata. He's someone that has a really fascinating quirk. He's someone that's really worked hard to be where he's at. He's just a really cool character. And now after this episode, we found out that he potentially could have gotten One for All. Imagine how broken he would have been, or how broken he could be, and how strong he is if he actually would have had a quirk like that. It's scary to think about. But the point though is that Togata has to introduce Izuku to Night-Eye, and he says, like, you need to make Night-Eye laugh. He has a very strange sense of humor. If you don't make him laugh, then he's not probably going to hire you. So Izuku is tasked with kind of making him laugh, but the impression he gives at the end of the episode is hilarious. I love the All Might impression, but he obviously gets off on the, wrong side of the bed with, Night-Eye. Night-Eye's like, are you making fun of All Might? And he gets very serious, which is showing that Night-Eye really does care about All Might to such a degree, because we even see when he's kind of introduced in this episode, he's watching a video clip of All Might, when he was like, I am here. So he does have a lot of respect for All Might, even if there probably is a complicated relationship between him and All Might, which is revealed. We do know at the very least that he does respect All Might a lot. So Izuku kind of doing that imitation probably kind of set him off, which probably makes it to where he might not even get hired. It's probably going to be very hard for him, and he's going to have to do something to really impress Night-Eye for Night-Eye to even let him be a part of his agency. So, yeah, that's, pretty much about it when it comes to this episode, honestly. It's a very, it's a good episode. It's a good episode of My Hero Academia, and I cannot wait to see next week's episode, see what, Izuku's gonna do against Night-Eye. This is gonna be an amazing anime season for My Hero Academia, guys, and it's gonna probably be the best season yet. So anyways, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. And if you want to get notified for whenever I upload a video, please click the bell icon down below. And with that, Chibi out.